everyone, welcome back to my channel by MWoo. I'm MWoo, aka Marianne, and today we have episode 4 of the knitting podcast that we host here. It should be a good one, maybe short, I'm not sure, but we have a couple finished objects, a handful of new whips that you guys haven't seen before, and no yarn acquisitions. Without further ado, we can jump straight into it. So I have 2 finished objects for this episode, one of which I am wearing. So this, if you guys recognize, is my Friday tee by Petite Knit. I casted it off maybe a week ago now, and oh my god, I am so in love with it. It is, I won't say perfection because there's still some things that, like, if I was to do again, I would want to do differently, but I'm like beyond stoked and happy about it. For those of you who haven't been following along, I've been working on the Petite Knit's Friday tee over the last 2 or so months now, and it is a beautiful raglan striped broken rib t-shirt knit in fingering weight yarn. The recommended yarn is Sandnes Garn Sunday. I, as you can see here, have done this almond color with this like greeny mossy color. I think the name of it is Dusty Moss Green, and I am in love with this yarn combination. This is primarily knit up on size 3mm needles with the exception of the collar, which I think is 2.5. It is 100% wool, so it's been a little bit too warm to wear it. Thankfully, it's cooler this morning, so I've been able to wear it for you guys. But yeah, I'm beyond in love with it. It was a beautifully written pattern. I think this was my first Petite Knit pattern. I think so. In terms of like modifications for this, I only made 2. I made the sleeves a little bit shorter. So in her original, they go up more to like 1/3 length. I made them a little bit shorter. Although when I was following the pattern, it said to knit to 11 centimeters in length. And I think I only stopped at 10. So it shouldn't be too much shorter, but I feel like it's quite a bit. I don't know. And then you can't see it here, but I did decide to knit it 2 stripe repetitions longer. That was partly because I got to the length that she had specified and I tried it on and I was worried that it was going to be a little too short. It wasn't necessarily cropped. It was hitting me like right at the waistline. And I was worried that when I blocked it and the broken rib like bloomed, that I would lose some more of that length because as it grows wider, it generally tends to grow shorter, not grow, shrink. So I knit a couple more rounds to accommodate for that. And I probably didn't have to, but I do really like the length of it now. It hits maybe an inch or so below my actual like hip bones, which I'm really happy with. The broken rib relaxed so beautifully. It's kind of hard to see, but the shirt is like quite a bit boxier now, which I really liked. When you were knitting it, it was behaving kind of like ribbing where it was like really condensed. And so I'm really happy with how it has like bloomed out. Modification slash thing that I would have wanted to change if I was to do this again is figure out a better way to hide the row changes. I talked about this when I was knitting it initially, maybe 2 podcasts ago, that I wasn't super happy with how I was doing the color changes. There is still a little bit of a jog on the reverse here, albeit it's not the end of the world because it's on the back side, and so as a wearer, you can't see it. And then as a person looking at the shirt, I'm pretty sure most people wouldn't recognize or think to recognize it unless you pointed it out to them, / unless they were a knitter. And so I'm okay with it, but if I was to make it again, I would want to try to see if I could figure it out a little bit better. I was trying to do what she recommended. She has like a video in her pattern that you could like follow to suggest how to like avoid this jogging, and I was trying to do that, and I don't know if I read the pattern wrong or if I counted wrong, but my beginning of row started on a purl, but the way that she was explaining it in the video is that you lift up the right arm of the previous row stitch like up to kind of hide that jog, but I wasn't getting a clean finish when doing that on a purl. Either I wasn't doing it right, or again, I counted something wrong and I was supposed to start on a knit, but I was starting on a purl. Regardless, I'm obsessed with this. My 2 other additional comments are about the broken rib. I actually really enjoyed this broken rib pattern. It's a 2-row repeat in terms of it being like you knit 1 row and then you alternate knit/purl in the next row. And it's like the perfect amount of like mindlessness, if that makes sense. Like it's enough to keep you engaged because it's not just straight stockinette, but it's like easy enough that you can memorize super quickly and you can like easily check where you are. And so you can also engage in like watching TV or listening to a podcast or music or whatever while doing it. So I'm really happy with this texture. It does remind me of the stitch pattern on my Wildest summer tee. And I think both of them are really like nice beginner textured patterns if you guys are interested in that. Last comment is that I did a tubular bind off the way that the pattern recommend. I don't hate it as much as other people seem to do. And maybe that comes from the fact that I do kind of like sewing, but I find that the tubular cast off is really meditative. Especially, I know it's like kind of like a 4-part cast off, but if you kind of get into the rhythm of it, it kind of turns into a 2-part cast off, if you know what I mean. But I did a really good job, in my opinion, on the sleeves. I can't say the same thing about the body cast off. I did totally mess up the like beginning/end jog, but that's like a small detail that, well, now all of you guys know because I told you, but I don't think anybody would really notice it. But that's my Friday tee. I'm in love with it. If you are on the fence about making it, I would say go for it. It's a lovely pattern. The only thing that I would say that maybe if you don't want to do it is that if you don't want to knit a whole shirt and fingering, because it does take a long time. There's a lot of stitches. But I think it looks really nice. The next finished object is actually one that I don't have with me anymore, and it was because it was a gift knit. And that is a baby bear bonnet by Pernille Larsen. I'm probably butchering that, I'm so sorry. But they are the owner, I believe, of Knitting for Olive, and so it's this really adorable baby bear bonnet. Although, in my opinion, it kind of gives me cat vibes, but it's cute regardless. It's a mostly stockinette bonnet styled hat for, I think they have sizes from like infant to 12 months or so. And it's just an adorable hat that I think makes like the perfect quick gift knit. I'm not a particularly fast knitter, and I managed to do it up in like, I think 2 or 3 days. And that's not with like, I mean, I was knitting on it monogamously, but it wasn't just like constant knitting. I was still like doing work and doing other stuff in my life. So it is a relatively fast knit. The recommended yarn is Knitting for Olive Merino and the Knitting for Olive Soft Silk Mohair. Probably evident by the fact that it was a pattern written by the owner of that company. But I ended up doing it in some, I don't want to say leftover because that project I used it from is still a work in progress, but definitely excess yarn from my Maricia cardigan. So I ended up knitting it in Knitting for Olive Merino in the colorway Marzipan with Sandnes Garn's Silk Mohair. It made this beautiful cream bonnet that I was really excited to gift it. It's for a family member. They are expecting a baby. And so, yeah, I knit that up. It was a very interesting construction. Nothing that I've ever done before, in the sense that it's primarily knit flat and the shaping of it is done mostly through German short rows, which I loved the result that it gave. It gave a really clean edge in the back. But yeah, I've never seen anything like that. I don't know if that's like a normal construction style for bonnets or hats, but I really enjoyed it. In the pattern, they give you the option to do either a ribbed rim or a moss stitch rim, and I opted for the moss one because I think it just is a little bit more dainty and delicate. I think something that contributed to the quickness of the knit was the fact that it was knit on 3.5mm needles. I would classify holding fingering with mohair as like a very light DK, especially because the Knitting for Olive Merino is a very, in my opinion, a light fingering. And so given that I've been doing a lot of fingering weight projects, I think that definitely helped with the speed in terms of bigger needle sizes and a bigger yarn gauge, yarn weight. I have nothing but good things to say about that pattern, despite it being a brand new construction style for me personally. It was pretty well written, in my opinion. It definitely helps if you have a little bit of like German short row experience, but I think the pattern paired with the video that it recommends, I think it has a video that it recommends, / some YouTubing, like a beginner would be able to do it. And I think it's like probably my new go-to baby project to make for like gift knits. It's so sweet, so cute. It uses up like a relatively small amount of yarn, so it's not very yarn hungry. And so I think it's just like a well-rounded project. The only thing that I don't know about it is because it uses silk mohair, or just mohair in general, you might have like possibly irritation if you are gifting it to someone and they end up having like a skin allergy or sensitivity to it. But I think it'd be easy to swap out the yarn combo for a different kind of DK. Or even if you wanted to size up and go like worsted, you probably could hack the pattern and do so. And plus babies grow so quickly that if your gauge is slightly off, and I think as long as you're on the bigger side, they would end up using it anyways. But I love that pattern, would highly recommend it. It was so cute. I'm sorry I don't have it here to show you, and I'm also sorry I didn't take as many photos. I finished it like really late in the evening on one day, and I really wanted to send it out to the people that I was gifting it to. And so I kind of like rush packed it the next day. And then when we were driving away from the post office, I was like, oh no, I forgot to take more photos. But I have the handful. Not even, I think I have like 2. But it was a really cute knit. And I'm excited to see photos of when they put it on their little kit. So those are all the finished objects that I've accomplished in the last little bit of time. This is the biggest one, and the other one was just like a little quick fun thing that I did. And so we can go straight on into the whips. Like I said, I have a handful of new whips that you guys haven't seen before. I have 3 specifically. One is a sock, one is another gift knit, another one is a spontaneous cast on that I did on a Friday afternoon. So the first one I'll talk about is the spontaneous knit one. I have it here in my beautiful project bag. This is by Yellow Petal Handmade. They're a local Canadian project bag designer, and they have so many cute bags. And Penelope, who is the owner, is the sweetest person. This is not sponsored, but I have 2 of her project bags. Both of them I custom made with her. Pretty reasonable pricing, beautiful like construction, and like she works with you so well that I would like highly recommend if you're looking for a project bag. I want to get more, but I don't think I need more. Maybe like a sock one, but also I'm okay, right? Anyways, I digress. The project that I have here is, like I said, a spontaneous cast on. It's actually a relatively new pattern, and I just saw it and I fell in love. I'm a little tangled, hold on. And that is cardigan number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. It's inside out. Oops. I mean, it doesn't really change much, but she had just released the pattern for this, and it was such a beautiful tank top, camisole, whatever you want to call it. It's just got such a simplistic style. The detail on it is so sweet. I mean, like, in theory, it's just really clean, and it has this beautiful like knit stitching where you like have the hems. I didn't want to start a new fingering project, but this just captivated me so much. I also thought it would be nice to actually do a summer fiber knit project. So this is done in Knitting for Olives cotton merino. If you guys recognize this, it's because I showed a swatch of this in my first podcast saying that I was thinking about making the Anchor Tee by Petite Knit. I definitely was still considering that, but yeah, the camisole stole my heart, and I really wanted that really clean look as a staple in my wardrobe. So like I said, this is Knitting for Olive Cotton Merino, which is, I believe, a 30% wool, 30% merino, 70% organic cotton. I think it's a fairly common summer yarn. My first time working with it. I don't hate it. I thought I would dislike working with cotton more than I do because it doesn't have like that wool kind of stretch factor, but this one's really nice. I think the very slight amount of wool does help with it, and it's pretty nice to work with. My only comment is that it's a little splitty. Oh, I don't think I mentioned the color that I'm using is Oatmeal, which is this really beautiful like gray taupe color. The thing that's kind of cool about the cotton merino is that it kind of has this sheen on it that the merino one doesn't have, which I really like and I think plays really well into a summer knit. So yeah, so far, despite it being a fingering weight pattern, it's kind of come together really quickly. I joined in the round yesterday, and I say I've been working a decent amount on this, but definitely not monogamous knitting. And now that I've joined in the round, I think it's going to be relatively smooth sailing for at least the body portion because it's just stockinette in the round. I'm curious to see how doing the edge banding will work. I read a little bit ahead in the pattern, and she definitely has like some tips and tricks, and I think she's posted a reel, and by she I mean My Favorite Things Knitwear, in terms of like some recommendations on how to do that. So I'll keep you guys updated on when that comes along, but I'm really excited for it. I did do a really quick like slip overhead try on, and I think it's fitting really well. The armholes might be a little big, but I think that's just gonna be really nice for the summer. And the cotton merino knits up really well. I don't think it's as even as merino, but I think that's just evident of the fact that cotton is a little bit less forgiving than merino is. I really want to make a black one afterwards, but I think after this one, I might start thinking about transitioning more into early fall winter knits, just because I think fingering weight looks best for summer knits. But I think I need a little bit more of a fingering weight break, even though I said that last time I ended up casting that on. But yeah, that's my Camisole number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. The next project that I have going on right now is another Petite Knit pattern, and that is the Ingrid Sweater Baby by Petite Knit. This is what I have so far. I'm making the 3 to 6 month old size, and so I just have the back yoke started. I'm in the position right now where I'm supposed to be starting the front yoke. Sorry, I think Ryan's doing some stuff in the kitchen. But yeah, I just finished the back yoke, and so I think I'm in the part where I'm supposed to pick up stitches to kind of start the front yoke and work on that. This is a pretty popular pattern in the knitting community. I feel like everybody and their dog has either knit the Ingrid sweater or the Moby sweater by Petite Knit, and I am now no exception. I thought it would be nice to knit a baby sweater for the same couple that I gifted that baby bonnet to. Originally the plan was to knit this sweater up and gift that. I didn't think I was gonna have enough time, so I ended up deciding to do the baby bonnet, and this will be Christmas present instead. So I'm definitely knitting it a little big. I don't want to get too much into it because I am trying to film a knitting vlog on my experience making this, because this is my first time making a baby sweater. This is my first time making a drop shoulder sweater, and this is my first time using charts in a sweater pattern. If you guys recall, I used the charts for the Penelope kerchief back in May, but that was the extent of my chart reading experience, and so I'm trying to apply that to a baby sweater. I thought it'd be a good one to kind of like practice on, specifically because I think the stakes are lower when the sweater's smaller. So yeah, I don't want to get too much into that because that vlog should be coming out sometime in the near future. I'm obviously still filming it because I'm not done the sweater, but I can give you a little bit of a background in terms of I'm knitting this on 4.5mm needles, and I'm using the Hayfield bonus Aran Tweed, which is a ginormous skein, I still don't know which one it is, of yarn. It comes with about 400 grams, which is approximately 840 meters or 920 yards. And it's a blend of 74% acrylic, 20% wool, and 6% viscose. If you guys know my experience about acrylic, I've mentioned multiple times that I don't love it. I think the wool in this one does help. The knitting experience on this one hasn't been as bad as the baby blanket that I've been making for my manager. I will say though that the bamboo does stick a little bit. Not stick, but like it does catch. There's a lot more friction than I would have liked. But overall, the knitting experience is not dreadful. Something as a side comment, because this yarn ball is so ginormous, it makes taking this project around kind of annoying, which is a shame because as a sweater project, baby sweater projects are like the easiest to move around because they're smaller. But I decided to match it with the biggest ball of yarn that I had in my yarn stash. And so this is a lives on the couch mostly project, and I pick it up when I'm sitting over there. Alrighty. The last work in progress is a pair of socks. And these are, oh no, they're stuck. The Wild Bee socks by Helen Stewart. I wanted to make a pair of socks that weren't vanilla socks. And my original plan was to use an Alaskan yarn that I had, but I already had this hank wound up into a cake. And so I couldn't be bothered to wind all of the new yarn that I bought, so I started with this one instead. Actually, I was going to do the Rumpelstiltskin socks by, I don't remember who the designer name is, but as I was searching through sock patterns, the Helen Stewart Wild Bee one caught my eye. I think it's because the pattern photo uses a similar sock color or yarn color, and I thought it was really adorable. It's this really cute lace pattern that I think are supposed to mimic bees. I'm not gonna lie, I don't really see them, but I really like it anyways. I'm knitting it in this really beautiful golden yellow. I have the tag here because I can't for the life of me remember what it's called. But it's Sweet Sparrows yarn in the colorway Butterbeer. I did kind of think about doing a Harry Potter themed sock pattern, but I didn't find any that I liked. This is her Nuthatch 75-25 superwash merino nylon blend, and 100 gram hank of yarn is about 463 yards. This was a gifted yarn to me by my sister when I was originally showing interest in making knit projects, and I've just been holding on to it for honestly years. I don't even remember when she gave it to me, but I really like it. Honestly, it's such a beautiful like color way. It's, I guess, would fall in the tonal definition, where it's got like some lights and some dark yellows, but they're all in the same like color family. And for those that are wondering, where I have this cake of yarn on is called a twister, I believe. I think it's, I want to say Swedish brand, and it's designed for a yarn that you can put on like this, and it like rotates, and you can put your arm through the hole, and so it's like nice traveling and carrying. I like using this when I'm like walking around the house to knit my socks, or when I have a house project. In theory, you could use it when exercising, when going on walks. I think it's like such a cute, great invention. I was gonna bring it to Alaska so I could use it while I was knitting, but my only thing about that is that I think the yarn gets dirty because it's not protected anyway, but it's such a cute design. But yeah, it's going really well. This has surprisingly been a relatively fast knit, and I think it's because of the like lace on it. You always want to get to the end of a row, and then by the time you finish, I'm just like, oh, I just do one more row. I'll do one more row. I'll finish, I think it's a 16 row repeat pattern for this. And so before you know it, you're like, oh, I'll just finish the repeat. And then it grows so quickly. I'm having a really great time knitting this. I'm hoping that I'll be able to finish it soon. You might have noticed that I'm doing this one at a time. I picked up, these are 2.25 millimeter needles with a 32-inch circumference. And I felt like for my first lace socks, I wouldn't want to do 2 at a time and then do the same mistake on 2 and then have to rip out twice the amount of work, if that makes sense. So I thought it would be safer to just do one at a time. In retrospect, the pattern's relatively straightforward, so I probably could have done 2 at a time, but I don't know if I really like it. I'm currently trying it out on a pair of vanilla socks, and I still like the idea of finishing socks at the same time, but something about having to drop the working yarn to pick up the other working yarn to do the next sock, it just is a little bit too much friction in my sock knitting flow, you know what I mean? So I'm doing 1 at a time for this one. Oh, the only thing that I wanted to say is that Helen Stewart's sock pattern, I love the way it's laid out. If any of you guys know, it's written in like a table, and then she also has an accommodating chart. And I think the way that it's structured is just so nice. It gives you a tracker in terms of like how your progress is going. I adore it. It's my first time using her pattern, so I don't know if she does this for all her sock yarn patterns, but I am a convert. I love the way it looks. And I love the way it reads, and definitely I'm considering purchasing one of her sock bundles and knitting through one of those. I know that Amy from Knits is currently doing the second, is it Handmade Sock Society, the second version, and I really like that set, so I'll definitely consider buying one of her sets and knitting through them. All my other whips are either in a no progress stage in which I haven't made any progress, or I've been making very slow progress that I don't think it's worth showing. For example, my Mauricia cardigan, I haven't worked on that at all since I last showed you guys. The baby blanket for my manager, as well as those vanilla socks that I was talking about that are supposed to be a Christmas gift for my father-in-law. I've been working on them, but the progress has been so slow or so like minimal that I feel like if I showed you guys, it would look no different from last time. So that's probably all my updates for now. We'll see where I head in a couple weeks time when I'm doing the next podcast. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm on a yarn buying hiatus right now after my Alaskan trip and that giant haul that I had. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out podcast number 3 because I talked all about the yarn that I picked up during my Seattle and Alaska trip there. Got a lot of good goodies, but because of that, I couldn't justify buying more stuff now. I'm on a momentary hold until September, which we're going to Toronto then. I'm allowing myself to pick up a couple things when I'm over there because there's a yarn store that I'm really interested in checking out, and they have some brands that I've never seen in person and I want to get acquainted with. With that being said, that I have thoughts on yarn. So Sorella Yarns just released her Taylor Swift Eras Tour yarn collection. I guess released is not the right word. She released the pre-order or opened the pre-order up for it. She's been teasing it for a while, and the colorways are so beautiful. It really took a lot in me to not buy anything. But I think the thing that helped with that is that of the yarns of the colorways that she had, a handful of them remind me of yarn that I have in stash already, one of which is like this yellow one, this Butterbeer one that I was just talking about. That most matches Gold Rush in my opinion. I really loved the Wildest Dream colorway, which reminds me of the Aurora yarns that I picked up in Alaska. It's missing a little bit of more of the orange tones, but I think the blue yellow hues are definitely there. The two that I really wanted to get, and I don't have anything like them in my stash, are Enchanted, which is a really beautiful pale pink and purple dyed colorway, as well as Look at What You Made Me Do. I think the vibrancy of the red and the richness of the dark charcoals with that one is perfection. But yeah, $30 USD for a hank of yarn. After buying so much other yarn, I couldn't quite justify it. But I'm trying to be good. But yeah, those are all my thoughts. I'm gonna get cut off by my camera soon because I'm hitting my filming quota. I think my SD card is getting full. And so I'll probably leave it there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed a little update on my projects as well as my finished objects. Let me know what you're currently working on. I'd love to hear more about that, and feel free to message me on Instagram if you want to send me a photo or just want to chat more privately. I'm always happy to do so. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next podcast or video, whichever one comes out next. Bye everyone. I don't know, it's just so pretty with the like grays and the reds, and oh, I really want this one. Plus Reputation is my favorite album. Maybe tied with 1989. Is that a contrary opinion? I'm not sure.